Shavua Tov, good to go.
No.
A good to go, Shavua Tov. Hey, Omid Aleph on the bottom. Kufa Omar Romi Bachomo Omar Avuno Lechi Abolet Midafno Shomavui. Pachot me'abamot nidon mishum lechi. Ein tzorich lechi achadati roim. Okay. You have like this. You have a lechi. That a lechi means a vertical wall stick that's sticking out, protruding from the wall. Now it helps you close off the wall. Let's say your lechi is the wall, but it's like one little part of the wall that's sticking out more than the rest of the part of the wall. So you're using the wall itself for the lechi. For example, here's the picture. You have a wall. Only the bottom of the wall sticks out extra. See that little part? Okay. So now, says the Gemara, if it's less than 4 amas, then we could view it as a lechi. Okay, so it works. You don't need any other lechi to be matir, the area of the mavui, to be matir, to permit the mav carrying in the mavui. But if it's arba amot, then we consider it like part of the mavui, and you need another lechi. It's not good enough. What is that? So we learned yesterday, Friday, we learned this halacha before, and the pshat is, since you really built it for the purpose of a wall, of the structure of the wall, not for a lechi, and it has the length of a mavui, which is 4 amot. So now we don't view it as something that is ancillary to the wall, like an extension, something else, like a lechi, but rather the part of the wall of the mavui, and therefore you need another lechi on top of that. Okay? So the question is like this: Oto lechi echem amido. Lechi. It's the real way of saying it. I call it lechi because I'm Ashkenazi, Yeshivish. That's what we say. That's the way the Chofetz Chaim said it also. Oto lechi echem amido. Yeah, where do you put this lechi? What's it going to help if you put another bit on top of this wall? All it looks like is like you're adding to the first part of the wall. And if the first part of the wall couldn't do the trick, so the lechi is also not going to be anything. You put it on the other side. Fine. What you do is you make it a little bit higher or a little thicker or a little lower or a little more narrow, whatever you want. Higher, thicker, lower, thinner. Something different than the first wall. So if the first wall is this thick, right? So then make it thinner, taller, lower, thicker, whatever you want, just different, so you see that it's something else, and that will help as the lechi. You're going to love it. Halacha is like this. We only said this, that you need another lechi if it's more than 8 amot. Right? Okay? So now let's say you have more than 8 amot. Let's say, for example, it's 8 amot or more. So then, if your first wall is 4 amot, and the open part now is another 4 amot or 5 amot, because let's say 9, then you need another lechi. And the machlekes with Papa and Rabbi, if you put it on the other side, make it look like a lechi, or you just make it different, fine. But if it's only 7, this is halacha. the wall ends here, but then there's like this added part of the wall. And this, let's say this is the added part of the wall. And this whole opening here, from here till here, is 7 amot. Okay? And this thing itself is 4 amot. So how much left do you have? I know it doesn't look exactly like that. 3. So now you know how it's good? Because you just closed this side with a new rule. What do you mean? I didn't put a lechi, I didn't put a korah. How are you going to be matter? How are you going to permit me to carry inside of here? Because there's a rule called oimed meruba al haporotz. If the standing area is more than the breached area, then it's considered closed off. Normally, what do you have? What's the classic mavli? The fourth side is opened. How much of it? Totally. So you have almost all of it is breached. So then you have to put a lechi or a korah. But here, you're closing it off. Its majority is being closed off. Okay? So therefore, the kavachomer michotzer. We learned this as a kavachomer from a chotzer. No, because we said that this wall is 4 amot. So 4 is the majority of 7.9. It doesn't mean 7, it means less than 8. It says 7. Since we already know there's 4, so it's the majority of 7.9. Anything less than 8 is the majority. Okay? So therefore the Gemara says, Kavachomer michotzer. Uma chatzer she'ena niteret b'lechi v'korah. Niteret ba'omer meruba laporutz. If you have a chotzer, okay, and the chotzer is open to the Reshut HaRabim, this is not a mavli, okay? You're not allowed to be mater chotzer basically, whatever a chotzer is, it's not a mavli. If it's open one side to the Reshut HaRabim, you cannot be matter with putting a lechi or a korah. You have to have 2 real boards that are above. It's a whole different set of laws. Okay? So now chotzer is more stringent, but niteres by meruba parts. If you have more standing walls than breached, it's fine. You don't have to do anything. It's fine. You don't have to add anything. So mavui shanita b'lechi v'korah in addition shanita by meruba parts. Mavui that does have this heter midrabanan with a lechi or korah, for sure will have the rules applied to it, the rules of omen meruba laparutz. Now, everybody wants to know why you need this kavachomer. Why can't you just say omen meruba laparutz? Because halach, without making a kavachomer. It's be'etzem. Fine. We keep that right now. Keep that on the side. Weiter. So the Gemara says, the Gemara says, one second. You're telling me that chotzer is more strict, and yet it has the halachas of omen meruba halaporotz. If you have more standing than breaches, it's considered enclosed, and it's fine. So for sure, a mavui should have. It's not so. Don't be so fast about that. Chotzer sometimes has leniencies over a mavui. Where's that? If it's not open to the Reshut HaRabim more than 10 amot, it doesn't become asur. If you have a chatzer that's open to the Reshut HaRabim, now let it carry it. Once you close it up. That's only if the opening was more than 10 amot. Toma b'mavui shebitzas rabo. Halacha by mavui is that if you breach it 4 tfachim, it already becomes asur. Like we're going to see soon. Eruvin is going to teach us. And this chumrah is a greater stringency than we have by chatzer. So who told you that every leniency that you find by chatzer, namely, omed meruba ala porutz, will be applied to mavli? So the Gemara says, Kasav Rav Huna b'rei Rav Yeshua, mavli nami b'sas v'es. Rav Huna b'rei Rav Yeshua doesn't agree. He holds that a mavli, as we're going to see soon, later today, a mavli's pirza, which means if one of the walls on the side get broken open, it's only a problem if it's 10 amot, just like chotzer. So therefore, in regards to the breaches that ruin it, it's only like chatzir, it's equal. And so therefore, we only find stringencies in chatzir because chatzir doesn't have lechi v'korah and mavi does. Therefore, the Gemara is saying that kal v'chomer if omed meruba ala porotz, if any side has more standing wall than breaches, that should make it okay. So the Gemara says, "Leman kamina l'Rav Huna." Who is Rav Huna? Brei Rav Yeshua coming to explain the words of Rav Huna, right? Because Rav Huna was the one that said. Rav Huna was the one that said. Rabbi Bar Chama said in the name of Rav Huna that this din is this din he said that if you have a wall that's jutting out of the other part of the wall, you need another lechi to be matter. So the question on him was, why? If you have this wall coming out, so now you have oimed meruba al haporotz, okay? In the case of 7. So what's the answer? The answer is, Rav Huna Brei Rav Yeshua is saying is like this, that that since Rav Huna Brei Rav Yeshua holds that the pirza of a mavli is 10 amot, not like a chotzer. I mean, like a chotzer, more than 10 amot, not like 4 tvachim. So therefore, the mavli is not more chomer than the chotzer. Therefore, the kavachomer works, and that's why the oimin meruba ala porotz will help. But the problem is, Rav Huna pitzos be'abas tefillah. You're trying to explain Rav Huna's halachas, and you're saying that when did Rav Huna say that the lechi will work? It's only by an 8, but by a 7, Rav Huna will be moedeh that it will work because of oimin meruba ala porotz. No, he won't, because he holds that the mavri's breach is 4 tefachim. Now, if the mavri's breach is 4 tefachim, and the chotzes is more than 10, you don't have the kavachomer. The kavachomer falls apart. Because even though you showed me on one hand that a chotzer is more stringent because it doesn't work with lechi ukaira, but on the other hand, it's more lenient in Rav Huna's world because a breach of 10 is the only problem for a chotzer, whereas by a mavui, it's already by 4 there's a problem. So one hand chotzer is better, one hand mavui is better. Therefore, you can't make kavachomers. Once you can't make a kavachomer, who said the din of oimed meruba ala porotz works at all? So what's your answer, Rabbi Yeshua? Because you hold that the pizza has to be more than Esser even by a mavli, and therefore you have a kavachomer from Chatzir. That's not true. Because you're trying to explain Rav Huna, and Rav Huna doesn't hold like you. He holds that it's 4 tvachim. I know that was difficult, but that's what the Gemara said. So Gemara says now that, yeah, I hope that was good. Okay, fine. So the Gemara says, Rav Huna Brei Rav Yeshua time of the nafshe kamar. He's not really trying to explain Rav Huna. He's just extrapolating. He's saying, Rav Huna said halacha. If you have this thing sticking out, then another lechi is needed. So Rav Huna Brei Rav Yeshua said, by the way, in my opinion, I'm not explaining Rav Huna. In my opinion, since I hold that there is the kal v'chomer to be made from chatzir, because all we see by chatzir is stringencies over a mavli. Because they both have the shear that you need more than 10 to make a problem on the side. And on the other hand, chatzir has a din that it doesn't work with lechi b'kaira. So chatzir comes out much more chomer than mavli. Therefore, I have a kal v'chomer that if omen meruba ala porotz works by chatzir, it for sure should work by mavli. Therefore, I'm saying that if it's 7 or 7.9, then it will work because of oimed meruba al haporotz. Basically, what we just said in English, in our understanding of English, is that Rav Huna Brei Rav Yeshua is saying if it's the majority of the open side, it will help without elechi, without a kurr. It's just because most of it is closed off. Most of that side is closed off, so it's as if it's all closed off. You don't need a lechi and a kurr. Ravashi says like this. This is a fascinating Gemara, this piece of Ravashi. He says, even if the mavu is shmoina, okay, so now you have the wall that's arba, and then you have arba to open. He says monashach, because whichever way you like it. If the truth is that they're not 100% equal, you could be able to be so exact. If they weren't so exact, so parts. Meaning, if the wall is actually 4 point, something, so then the open space is 3.9999999. Okay, so then it's Aymed parts. You have more Aymed than parts. And if the other way around, the parts nafish is the mishum lechi. Now, if the parts is more, that means the open side is more and this is less. So that means that this is really not 4, this wall. It's 3.99999. So then you have no problem. Because the only reason why we needed a new lechi and we couldn't use this as a lechi was because it was the length of a whole mavli. But if it's only 3.9999, it's not the length of the mavli of the arba amos. So it will just be a big lechi. So it'll work because of lechi. So which either way that you do it. And you think, no, what about if it's exactly equal? So he says, my amris, what are you going to say? The shovat havayik, yeah, don't do that. Exact. It's possible that they are exact. Have a suffix divrei. He says it's a suffix. Okay? It's very possible that you're not measuring right. So now it's a suffix if you have a problem of carrying here. And you actually have 3 possibilities. Possibility number 1, that the parutz is more than the oimed, makes the oimed into a little lechi. It's good. If the oimed is more, then you could just be mattered because of oimed real parts. So 2 of the 3 options, you're already okay. The only option is it's mamish, exactly 4 and 4. So then I can't use you as a lechi because you're 4 amot. I can't say I'm oimed mirubo ala parutz because I'm not more. I'm exactly the same as you. So he says, so that's only 1 out of 3 shots. And a suffix d'Rabbanon, suffix d'Vrei on the hunter. Places asks that even if it would be the Reiser, you have 2 out of 3, you have the majority. Okay, it's Places Kasha. Ein Shom. Omer Avchonim Barova Omer Rav. Mavoi shenifretz mitzidoi be'esem iroi shoi. This is a new Gemara. Everybody could join right now. It's a brand new piece of Gemara. So it says over here like this. If you stay here for another few hours, how many hours are we doing? An hour of the share. We did 12 hours. Ready? It's very geschmack. I got it later on. But first you have to sweat. Then again, I got it. So it's like this. This is a new case. Let me show you the pictures here. It's very beautiful pictures. Okay? If you have a pirza on the side wall of a mavui, okay, it's 10 amot. We just heard about that now. Right? It has to be more than 10 amot. But if it's 10 amot or less, it's viewed as just an entranceway, and it's not in mevatel mechitza. Okay? Meroisha, but if it's on the front entrance, they are both tvachim. Let me show you that picture. Yeah, I'm look at this. These are 2 separate cases. If the breach was in the front wall over here, okay? So then if it's 4 tfachim, it's 4 of these. Problem. You have a problem there. Now, what's the problem? I'll have to explain in a second. If you have a breach over here, it has to be more than 10 amot. the side. Okay, there you got it. So the picture. So in the front wall, if it's 4 tfachim, it's a problem. On the side wall, stay separate cases. Has to be at least 10 amot to be a problem. So Gemara says, what's the difference? Why are you telling me there has to be more than 10 amot? Because up to 10 amot, we view as an entry. Every wall has to be totally, how are you going to get into places? Every wall has to be totally, otherwise you could say, oh, there's no wall there. The wall has been ruined. No, it's an entry. Up to 10 amot is an entry. Once it's more than 20 feet, about 18 feet, it's too much, that's a pit. But up to 10 amot is an entry. So why in the front, why can't you say it's 10 amot? It'll also be an entry. The answer is, this is the answer, that the breach that we're talking about over here, that we say is 4 tvachim, is only when you cut through the corner. So now, that is not an entryway. People do not make entries through corners because then you're ruining 2 walls where they meet at the right angle. That's ridiculous. Either you make an entry over here or you make an entry in here. You don't make it in the corner. And so if that happens, it's a breach. No, no one thought of it. It happened. No, it happened. It got broken through. No, you're fair. They didn't do it to make it, right? So that's the case right here. It was a breach through the corner. Okay? And therefore, that's not a petach. And that's why the 4 tefachim are going to be a problem. Okay? Fine. Rav Huna says, no, both of them are 4 tefachim. Does this sound familiar, Rabbi say? Rav Huna Rav Shua is going 10. Rav Huna is going 4 tefachim. That's exactly what we just had the machlokes before. He says that even on the side, if it's 4 tefachim wide, you have a problem. Huh? No problem. Yeah, according to Rav Huna, it's a problem. Okay? So now, and what's the reason, by the way? Because since the pirza, we're worried that people might start entering through there, and they might ruin the front entrance as being the main entrance. As long as you have an entrance of 4 tefachim, significant amount, the people can get through, it already is taking away the status of the front entrance as the main entryway, and the lechi and the koira are only working until this moment because they're on the main entryway. But once we lose that status, because on the side wall there's already an opening of 4, even though it's Oymen Beruba ala Porutz, it's starting to lose the status as the main entryway in the front, and therefore Rav Huna holds it's a problem. And Rav Huna told Rav Chanan bar Rava, which quoted Rav at the beginning of this memra. And he said, Rav Chanan bar Rava Omar Rav, he said, on the side it has to be 10 amos, more than 10 amos, to be a Pesach. Rav Huna told Rav Chanan bar Rava, don't argue with me about Rav. You saying Rav said that? That's not what Rav said. Because Rav visited Damharia, the city, Bavel, the Avad Uv the Kivasti, and he paskin 4 tefachim. There was a side wall that was open 4 tefachim. He came to see it, and Rav said, problem. Omalei, so Rav Chanan bar Rava told Rav Huna, that's not a proof. Rav bikomotza v'gada b'gada. Rav found an open field. What would you do if you find an open field that the fence fell down? You would put a fence around it. He said, Damcharia is a place full of Amarat. And the Ameha Aratzim. Umizalzulim b'mitzvot. They make fun of mitzvot. So therefore, in order for him to distance them from an Avedah, He didn't tell them the truth. 10 amot, you have 10 amot, more than 10 amot, up to 10 amot. He said, 4 tvachim problem. So because if you tell them the truth, they're going to be mizalzel in that. So they'll probably be mizalzel in the 4 tvachim also. And they'll say, 6 is also 7, but they're not going to get close to the 10 amot, as we say there. Basically, he saw a problem. A lot of times, we had this in Shabbos also once, at least once, I think, that the Chacham were more machmir on the Amei Haratzin because they're going to be mizalzel b'mitzvot. But it's not a proof of what he really held. He really held 10 amot. Okay? That's what Rav Chanan Rav told him. What? Cheapen. They cheapen. Yeah, it's like you shame and you cheapen him because zal means cheap. Yakar, zol, and yakar. Ata lo yakar. Ata lo yakar. You're not worth it. You're not valuable. You take his erech, his value, his yaklut, same word. You cheapen him. Cheap. Cheap and expensive, yeah. No, we don't use that in English so much. I don't know the word that we use. We don't have a good slang for that one. Okay, weiter. Oh, Rav Nachman Yitzchok, kavosed Rav Huna mistabro ditmar. We have a riot to Rav Huna that said the Rav held 4 tvachim is the problem on the side wall. Itmar, listen to this case. This case is fascinating. This is like one of the fascinating, famous pieces. You ready? No. Good poker players could become Talmidei Chacham. That's what we have to do. That's all. You ready? Now, a mavui akum. What's a mavui akum? A crooked mavui. We know there's 2 types of mavuis. The one that we speak about 99% of the time in this parak is 3 walls. 1 wall, 2 walls, 3 walls in the back, open in the front of the Rosh Hashanah. They were worried that you're going to mix up the Rosh Hashanah, so they said you have to have some sort of either a mechitza or a heker, a lechi, a kaira. Fine, we know that. What about if it's mifulash? It's open. I think you say flush on the other side. It goes through and through. On the other side there's Rosh Hashanah. On this side there's Rosh Hashanah. Then you have a real issue. Lechi and kaira is not going to work because you have only 2 mechitzot. That's the oraita. That's not enough according to most Tanoim. That's where we pass in. And therefore, in order for you to have that lechi kaira working, you have to close off one of the sides. So you could put a wall there. Let's say you don't want to build a whole wall there. You want to be able to walk through and through. So what you could do is you could close it off properly with the oraita with a surat hapetach. You put 2 poles there and 1 pole across. So now that 3rd side is closed, as if just as good as a wall. And then on the 4th side that's open, into the other Rishut Rabim, you put a lechi or a kari in business. You have to do both those things. Okay. Now, what if you have a mavui akum? And a mavui akum, the picture is as follows. Look. You have a picture of it, right? Yes. Yeah, show that to him if you don't mind. Lior? You learned this tomorrow, right? Mavui akum. So both ends open up to Rishut Rabim. Yes, and Rashi adds it right there. So, actually, that's a nice picture. But it's a very simple picture. It gets to the point. You have Rishut Rabim on one side, Rishut Rabim on the other side, and you have, so the question is like this. How do you view this mavui? On one hand, really, you could view it as 2 separate mavuis. One mavui has 3 sides. If you notice, look at the picture. 1 wall, 2 walls, and 3 walls. The back covers it. And the other one has 1 wall, 2 walls, and 3 walls. So my yeshtitcha, I don't have anything to do with you. I'm one mavi, you're mavi. We both are mavi satum. And everybody, all we need is a little lechi over here or a little lechi on that side for each one. So Rav Omar Tirasik Nefush. Rav doesn't say that. Rav says its laws are like they're open. Since both ends end up in Rishut Rabim, and there's nothing stopping you from going from one end to the other, okay? So therefore, we look at it like it's mamish opened. So what do you have to do? So what you have to do is, you have to make a tzurat HaPesach on one end, and then a lechi and kreira on the other end. Okay? So, and not only that, let me tell you what we have to do. You have to make a tzuras HaPesach in the middle, in that diagonal of the middle, right there. You can make a tzuras HaPesach there. And then, okay, so that closes off the middle. So now it's two separate mavos. Okay, and now for each one gets a lechi. For each it's mavo. Or you could do a little bit the opposite trick. You could put a tzuras HaPesach on the side, on two ends, mamish. Lechi in the middle. Yeah.
What do you define as tzuras HaPesach?
Tzuras HaPesach is two sticks and one stick. It's the form of a door of an entrance. Surat HaPetach. The form.
Does it have to have like the walls around it, or is it not just two sticks? Tzuras HaPetach in the middle of the empty space? That's tzuras HaPetach.
Yes. That's Tzuras HaPesach. Okay?
Okay, so where would you put the tzuras HaPesach?
So either listen how it works. You'll chop, it will make a lot of sense now. Either make the tzuras HaPesach over here, where they put that kaira, make the tzuras HaPesach over there. So now it's a real mechitza doraita. So now you just close off this one with a real wall. And you also closed off this one with a real wall. So now they're like two separate, non-related mavos, and then you just put, so now each one has a wall in the back and two walls on the side. So put a lechi here and then put a lechi there. Or you do the opposite way. You could put a tzuras HaPesach on the two ends over here. The two backs over here are closed. And then you put a lechi right over there.
Again, the point of the lechi is to do what?
Point of the lechi.
To signify, this is.
No, because then this becomes the back of the mobile. And this becomes the opening.
Well, what does a lechi do?
A lechi, well, a lechi, pashtus, a lechi is a mechitza. The Chachamim said it's a mechitza. Okay?
It's just a stick. It's just a
stick. Just a stick. Like this. Thinner than this. Put it up over here. That reminds people. These halachas, and they will never mix up a mavi with Rosh Hashanah. And after you learn Hilchos Eruvin with all halachas and you're busy with learning Daf Yomi, there's so many things to do and things to do. You'll never forget. All these halachas are part of this gzeir. So many details. They didn't just say, whatever, just put some toothpick in. No, there's millions of details in halacha and lumbus. So when you do it, it's filled with Torah, that stick, it's filled. Dynamite, it's full, right? So Mamela, that's the reminder. And that's how it's a mechitza. It's all part of it. Okay, so the Gemara is like this. Ushmul Omer Torah Kesasa. Shmuel says, no. They don't face each other. The two openings, one is facing east, one is facing north. They're perpendicular to each other. So what if they end up being open on both sides? They're not related to each other. So we look at them like two muvois that are closed off, which are open to each other. So each one needs a lechi and a kaira. So the Gemara is like this. That's all. All you do is a lechi and a kaira. Okay? So that's what Rashi says in the first pshat. And then Rashi brings down in the name of Mori Hazdake that you should also put a lechi in the middle. because Shmuel does agree that they are mefulish, but they're not mefulish to the Rishus HaRabim, only to another mavui. So it's good enough to put a lechi in the middle. That means a lot of. There's a chazanish. There's a chazanish on every one of these things. Explain all the lumbers of exactly what that is. But the Mari Azaki in the second shot is that not only a lechi on the end and the end, but there's a lechi over here also in the middle. Okay. But the Gemara asks the kasha like this. Let's go with Shmuel. Shmuel says, not related. Correct the Gemara kasha. Ask the Gemara. Am I asking? If that opening between the two mothers is more than 10, Shmuel's going to allow a lechi and a curry there? What are you talking about? The width is way too large. Okay? It's totally mefulish. It's opened up more than 10. It's a major breach. So it has to be one mavli. Okay? You can't consider that a two separate mavlis that they're just a little crooked into each other. You have to view it it's either way you look at it. Either you look at it like the Ritva says, it's one big mavli because the breach is way too big in the middle. You can't really. It's like, let's say a mavli goes like this and it goes drop crooked. You're gonna say, oh no, two separate mavlis, but it has to be like exact. That's the way the Ritva learns the Gemara's kasha. So therefore, that's how you have to view this too. Since the breach in between them is so large, it's such a large opening between one and the other, you have to view it as one large, just rounded mavli. The way the Chazanish learns the kasha is like this, that if you want to view it as two muvois, so then, but they still have a problem. Because they're more than 10 amas open, and everybody, even the most coolest shita, Rehuna B'rei Dev Shua, holds that if it's more than 10 amas, it's open and it needs a fixing. A lechin and kaya won't work. So what's Shmuel talking about? So the whole name is Shmuel Teros Gesasim, Elolav, Be'eser, the Kamer after us. So it must be that in order to explain Shmuel, the only way it makes sense is if that it's less than 10 amot. That opening, that diagonal opening means that to that is less than 10 amot. And that's where Shmuel says it's Kesasim. And that's where Rav said, says the Gemara, this is the main point of the Gemara. And that's where Rav said it's kind of foolish anyways. How come it's been foolish anyways? Why? Foolish means open. Open up all the way. Why is it been foolish? You want to explain me why? Why are they related? Why is it one? Look, every single one has 3 walls. There's an opening less than 10 amot. So it's between 4 tfachim and 10 amot somewhere. So why is it a problem? Must be because foolish. So we see from here that a breach in the side wall is 4 tvachim. It doesn't need to be 10 amot because here we're talking about less than 10 amot because otherwise Shmuel wouldn't make sense. And yet, Rav still says that it's a problem. It ruins the mavli. He ruins it so much that we considered both mavlis to be related to each other as one. So therefore, we see that Rav says even after 4 tachim, it's already a problem. That is called genius raya. The Gemara says, "Rav Chana bar Rav, how does he get out of this raya? Because he said that it needs 10, more than 10 amot according to Rav. And for the Gemara, Shani Hasam, the Kabaki Bolabim. You can't prove anything from this case. Because since there's so many people walking through this mavli, why there's so many people? Because there's 2 entrances from 2 different main thoroughfares of Rosh Hashanah, one on the north, one on the east, right? So northeast. So therefore, when there's so many people walking through, then it gets new halachas that even 4 tefachim, Rav says. But in a normal mavli, it's only open one side and not so many rabbim boy. Then maybe Rav would say more than 10. Rav is not excited about this. So the Gemara says, aha, Michlal, the Rav Huna Sover, Afagav Loy Boki Borav. Rav Huna then argued with Rav Chana bar Rav, and he said, no, Rav always says between 4 tefachim. He holds, even if it's not a lot of rabbin coming through, Rav has the problem with more than 4 tefachim. Why is this different And Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi, we had Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi the other day, and they said, I'll remind you, it was on Friday, that if the side wall breaks, as long as there's still 4 tfachim of a board from the main wall, this is the main side, this side over here got broken in. As long as there's still, from the corner, from the kair, 4 tfachim of wall here, you're in business. Okay? Everything's fine. Until what? Until more than 10 amot. So we see clearly that Rav is arguing with Rabbi and Ravasi. So now, if we would have said that Rav Huna, maybe Rav Huna's halacha about Rav, today it doesn't argue to Rav and Ravasi because Rav Huna is talking about, you know when Rav said 4 tefachim? When there's a lot of people walking through. But you see here that Rav Huna was arguing with Rav Chanan bar Rava in Rav's opinion, even when there's not a lot of people walking through. Because Rav Chanan bar Rava's answer was, oh, that Rav was talking about, by the 2 Mavlis, was talking about a lot of people walking through. But that's not our machlokes between me and you, Rav Huna. We're arguing in the case that not a lot of people walking through. If not a lot of people walking through, you don't even have that. You don't have that option to say that that's what Rav Huna was talking about, because you see that they're arguing in Rav even when there's not a lot of people walking through. So if there's not a lot of people walking through, how it comes out, this is now arguing with Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi's halach that as long as there's a wall of 4 tefachim here, we don't view a breach of anything less than 10 amot as a threat to the status of the front wall, and we're okay. So Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi seem to hold that there's no isser of 4 tefachim. The Gemara says, "Hosom ikegedudi hocha delekegedudi." Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi are not talking about the same case that Rav is speaking about, where Rav Chanan bar Rava and Rav Huna are arguing about Rav. It's a different situation. What's the situation? In Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi, you still have the bank of the river, the lips. We're done, by the way. It's the last piece of Gemara. The lips of the means like this. Let's say you have a wall, right? The wall is from the floor till there. So now, all you see from here. Now look what happened. Empty space. Well, look, the wall still exists till here. 3 or 4 tefachim, you're still jutting out. You still have a wall across the whole thing. It's just that the wall is not a real wall because it broke through on the top. So that's there. They said that until you have more than 10 amot, it's not a real pizza. It's not threatening the main entry. But in the case of Rav, with Rav Chanan bar Rava, and if we have a machlokes, you know what it's speaking about, Rabbi? The whole wall, like the pictures that we've been seeing today. The whole wall's gone. Whatever the breach is, the entire wall's gone. So there could be an opinion. Rav Huna can say confidently in the name of Rav, and it's not a stira, it's not a contradiction to Rabbi Amir Vasi, that a 4 tefachim breach is already a threat to the main entryway of the opening, and that will already prohibit you to carry there, even with Lechi and Korah. Chazak Baruch.